Welcome back to LF Tribute. Today, we remember the notable personalities who sadly passed away recently. Let us honor their memories with respect.
The South Bronx is calling. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the South Bronx in 1960. Concrete streets, fire escapes draped with laundry, kids playing stickball under the blistering summer sun, the sound of Spanish drifting from every window, mixed with the crackle of old radios, the honk of distant taxicabs, and underneath it all, if you listened closely enough, rhythm, a heartbeat. The sound of a community that had traveled thousands of miles from Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, carrying their music, their pain, their joy, their identity, all of it crammed into a borough that the rest of New York City often pretended did not exist. Into this world, on April 28, 1950, William Anthony Colon Roman was born. He was raised by his grandmother and his aunt, women who fed him traditional Puerto Rican music the way other families fed their children breakfast. By age 11, he had picked up the flute, then the bugle, then the trumpet, and then one day he heard a trombone. He later described the moment in an interview with a Colombian newspaper. He said the trombone sounded like, and these are his words, an elephant, a lion, an animal, something so different that as soon as I heard it, I said to myself, I want to play that instrument. He was 11 years old when he said that. He was not yet a teenager. But what Willie Colon understood at 11 was something that would take most musicians a lifetime to grasp. That the instrument you choose is not just a tool, it is a voice, and the voice he chose would go on to shake the foundations of Latin music forever. Fania Records and the birth of something new. By the time Willie Colon was 17 years old, he had already signed with Fania Records, the groundbreaking New York label that was in the process of creating an entirely new genre. They called it salsa. And if you want to understand what salsa meant in the late 1960s, you have to understand what it was not. It was not polished. It was not safe. It was not meant for the concert halls of Manhattan's Upper East Side. Salsa was the music of the streets. It was the sound of people who had been told their entire lives that they did not belong, and who responded to that rejection by creating something so powerful, so undeniable, so full of life, that the world had no choice but to stop and listen. And truth in the South Bronx of the late 1960s was complicated and beautiful and sometimes ugly and always, always alive. He partnered with a young vocalist named Hector Lavoe, a partnership that would produce some of the most celebrated albums in the history of Latin music. Their records together didn't just entertain people, they gave voice to an entire diaspora experience. The songs were about what it felt like to be Puerto Rican in New York, about longing and belonging and the particular kind of heartbreak that comes from loving two places at once and never feeling fully claimed by either. People heard Willie Colon's music and felt, maybe for the first time in their lives, that someone understood exactly what they were going through. He had recruited a new vocalist, a Panamanian singer and songwriter named Rubén Blades, and together they created something that transcended salsa entirely. Siembra was not just a great album, Siembra was a statement. It addressed poverty and inequality and political corruption with the same directness and fury that the best rock music of the era addressed those issues in the English-speaking world. But it did so with a sophistication and a rhythmic complexity that rock simply could not match. Siembra became the best-selling salsa album of all time, and it remains, nearly 50 years later, a towering achievement, a record that proves that popular music, at its absolute best, can carry the weight of history without collapsing under it. In 2006, the story of Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe was brought to the big screen in the biopic El Cantante, starring Marc Anthony and Jennifer Lopez, a film that introduced their music and their partnership to an entirely new generation. On February 21, 2026, Willie Colon passed away peacefully, surrounded by his family. He was 75 years old. He is survived by his wife Julia and their 4 children. His manager Pietro Carlos wrote, and I want to read this slowly because it deserves to be heard. Today, we have lost an architect of the New York sound, a trombonist who made metal his banner and wrote eternal chapters in our musical history. Willie didn't just change salsa, he expanded it.
politicized it, clothed it in urban chronicles, and took it to stages that it had never been heard before. His trombone was the voice of the people, an echo of the Caribbean in New York, a bridge between cultures. Today, we say goodbye to a master, but his legacy lives on. A boy from the South Bronx who picked up a trombone at 11 years old and decided that his community deserved to be heard, and heard they were. 30 million records later, Willie Colon made sure of it.
The man who watched. Here is something almost no one does anymore. Almost no one just watches. Not really. We look at our phones. We look at screens. We look at each other through the lenses of assumptions and expectations and narratives we already decided on before we walked into the room. Real watching, patient, open, unhurried, genuinely curious watching is one of the rarest things in the world. Frederick Wiseman did it for 60 years, and what he saw changed cinema forever. Frederick Wiseman was born on New Year's Day, 1930, in Boston, Massachusetts. He graduated from Williams College and then from Yale Law School. He served in the United States Army. He moved to Paris. He taught law at Boston University. And then one day, he took a group of his law students on a field trip to a place called Bridgewater State Hospital, a Massachusetts facility for the criminally insane. And what he saw there changed the course of his life. He could not stop thinking about it. He could not unsee it. And he realized that if he, a lawyer, a professor, a man of letters, if he had not known about the conditions inside that institution, then most people hadn't either. And that was wrong. That was a failure of visibility. And Frederick Wiseman decided he was going to spend the rest of his life fixing it. Titicut Follies and the Power of Being Banned. In 1967, he released Titicut Follies, a documentary about the conditions inside Bridgewater. It showed patients being force-fed, being humiliated, being stripped of their dignity by a system that was supposed to protect them. The film was extraordinary. It was also immediately banned by the state of Massachusetts, which claimed it had violated the privacy of the inmates. The irony, and it is almost too perfect to be believed, was that the state of Massachusetts did not object to what was being done to those inmates. It objected to people seeing what was being done to them. For more than 20 years, Titicut Follies could only be shown in restricted settings. You had to be a criminologist, or a legal professional, or a film scholar. You had to sign a declaration. You had to prove you were worthy of the truth. It was not until 1991 that all restrictions were finally lifted. By that point, Frederick Wiseman was already one of the most important filmmakers in the world. The artist who disappeared into his subjects. That is the experience of a Wiseman film. Total presence, total attention, the opposite of everything about the way we currently consume media. Over the course of his career, Frederick Wiseman made 45 films. 45. He made roughly one a year, every year, from 1967 to 2023, when his final film, Menu Plaisir, a portrait of a 3-star Michelin restaurant in France, was released when he was 93 years old. 93. Still working, still watching, still finding the world endlessly, inexhaustibly interesting. Honors and legacy. In 2014, the Venice Film Festival gave him the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement, the most prestigious honor in international cinema. In 2016, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences gave him an honorary Oscar. In his acceptance speech, standing on one of the most famous stages in the world, Frederick Wiseman said, "I usually know nothing about the subject before I start, and I know there are those that feel I know nothing about it when it's finished." The room laughed, but what he was really saying, in that characteristically dry and self-aware way of his, was that ignorance, genuine, humble, open-minded ignorance, is the beginning of all great art. You have to empty yourself of what you think you know before you can see what is actually there.
His wife Zipporah, the woman who gave her name to his production company, passed away in 2021 after 65 years of marriage. Frederick Wiseman followed her on February 16, 2026, at his home in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was 96 years old. He is survived by 2 sons, 3 grandchildren, and 45 films that together form what his own production company called a sweeping cinematic record of contemporary social institutions and ordinary human experience. Ordinary human experience. That was the thing that interested him. Not the extraordinary, not the famous, not the powerful. The ordinary, the everyday, the invisible. He spent 60 years making it visible. And in doing so, he gave us back something we had lost, the ability to truly see.
6'6" and unstoppable. There is a particular kind of greatness that belongs to the athlete who has to fight for every inch of recognition they receive. Not because they are not talented, they are, but because the world they compete in has not yet caught up to the idea that they deserve to be seen. Kara Braxton spent her entire life outrunning that world. She was 6 feet and 6 inches tall. She was powerful and fast and technically gifted and relentlessly competitive. And she played women's basketball at the highest level for 10 years at a time when the WNBA was still fighting every single season for the attention and respect and resources that it had always deserved. She was born and raised in Jackson, Michigan, and she found basketball early, the way truly great athletes always do, not as a choice exactly, but as an inevitability. By the time she was in high school, she had moved to Oregon, to Westview High School, where she and her twin sister Kim formed one of the most formidable sibling combinations in the history of Oregon high school basketball. Together, they led Westview to a state championship in 2000. Together, they were named Oregon 4A Players of the Year. There was a bond between them that went beyond basketball, a twin connection, the kind that people who have never had a twin cannot fully understand, but can feel in the way they moved together, the way they anticipated each other, the way they played like 2 halves of a single mind. College, the draft, and the Detroit Shock. Kara Braxton went on to play at the University of Georgia, where she was named SEC Freshman of the Year. She averaged 15 points and 7 rebounds per game. She was exactly the kind of player that NBA scouts talk about with reverence when they discuss the rare combination of size, skill, and basketball IQ. And in 2005, the Detroit Shock agreed, selecting her 7th overall in the WNBA draft in the first round and bringing her into a franchise that was in the middle of building a dynasty. And then life after the game, which is always its own kind of challenge, the transition from the extraordinary focus and purpose of elite competition to the broader, less defined terrain of what comes next. What came next for Kara Braxton was a family, a husband, Jarvis Jackson, 2 sons. One of them, Jelani Thurman, grew up to be a college football player at Ohio State, a young man who won a national championship in 2024, the year before his mother's death. Imagine that, a mother who was a 2-time professional basketball champion, whose son became a national champion in his own right. 2 generations of winning, 2 generations of excellence, 2 generations of people who understood in their bones what it means to compete at the highest level and not flinch. February 21st, 2026, a devastating loss. On February 21st, 2026, at approximately 5:15 in the afternoon, Kara Braxton was driving on an interstate highway in Atlanta, Georgia. Her vehicle failed to maintain its lane and struck the concrete median. She was taken to a hospital. She did not survive. She was 43 years old. She had celebrated her 43rd birthday just 3 days before. Her son, Jelani, posted a photograph on social media, a picture of himself as a small child wearing his mother's jersey. He wrote that he would miss his queen. Read that again.
a grown man, a college football champion, looking at a photograph of himself as a little boy in his mother's jersey, calling her his queen. There was no sentence in the English language that more completely captures what a mother means to a child. There is no loss that cuts more deeply than the loss of the person who was there before everything else, before the first steps, before the first game, before any of it. Kara Braxton was that person for Jelani Thurman, and she was gone at 43. The WNBA released a statement that read, in part, "It is with profound sadness that we mourn the passing of two-time WNBA champion Kara Braxton, a 10-season veteran. Our thoughts are with her family, friends, and former teammates at this time." The New York Liberty wrote, "We mourn the loss of Kara Braxton, a former Liberty player whose presence and passion left a lasting impact on our organization and the women's game. Two-time champion, 10 seasons, a mother, a champion, gone at 43, February 21st, 2026.
The quiet giant. Not everyone who changes the world does so with a trombone. Not everyone who changes the world steps in front of a camera. Some people change the world by showing up, by doing the work, by being in the room and saying the thing that needs to be said, and then going back to their office and doing it again the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, year after year, decade after decade, until the sum total of all those days adds up to something that matters. Richard Ottinger was that kind of person. He was a United States congressman from New York, representing a district in the Hudson Valley. He served in the House of Representatives for multiple terms across the 1960s and 1970s. He was, throughout his career, one of the most dedicated environmental advocates in the history of the American Congress. He helped write and pass legislation that protected rivers and wilderness areas and clean air and clean water at a time when those ideas were genuinely radical. When the notion that the government had an obligation to protect the natural world from industrial destruction was considered in many quarters of American political life an outrageous and dangerous idea. A life in service. Richard Ottinger understood something that is easy to forget, that the decisions made in legislative chambers have consequences that unfold over decades, over generations, that the vote you cast today might not show its full effect for 50 years. He was willing to make those votes anyway. He was willing to invest in futures he would never live to see fully realized, because he believed, genuinely, deeply, without irony, that that was what public service required. Not calculation, not self-preservation, service, real service. He was also deeply committed to education. After leaving Congress, he served as the dean of Pace University School of Law, where he worked to build a curriculum focused on environmental law, training a generation of lawyers to carry forward the work he had spent his congressional career beginning. He understood that lasting change requires institutions, that the ideas have to outlive the individuals who first championed them. And so he built the institutions, he trained the people. He did the unglamorous, essential, invisible work of making sure that what he had fought for would still be standing long after he was gone. 97 years well lived. 97 years, a life so long that it stretches from the early 20th century to the middle of the 21st, from a world of black and white newsreels and party telephone lines to a world of smartphones and social media and artificial intelligence. He lived long enough to see many of the causes he championed become mainstream, and long enough to see some of them come under threat in ways he had hoped, perhaps naively, they might not. He was not a household name. He was not the kind of politician who generated magazine covers or television appearances, or the kind of celebrity that we have come to associate with power. He was something rarer, and in many ways more valuable. He was effective. He was principled. He showed up. and the rivers that still run clean today, the wilderness areas that still exist today, the students who learned environmental law because of the institution he built, those are his monument. Not a statue, not a ceremony, a living legacy, breathing and moving through the world long after the man himself is gone.
Here is a question that almost no one asks about powerful women. Not what did she achieve, not how much was she worth. The question almost no one asks is who was she before any of it? Before the empire, before the marriage, before the name that made headlines around the world. Who was she when there was nothing? When she was just a girl in a working-class suburb of Glasgow, watching her family's dry cleaning business fall apart, watching her mother walk out the door, raising her younger siblings on her own before she was even old enough to vote. Her name was Anna Maria Torv, and by the time the world was done with her story, she would be known by a very different name. But the girl from Glasgow, that girl, never left. And understanding who she was before everything is the only way to understand the extraordinary life she built after. Glasgow to Sydney, the beginning. In 1969, just 2 years into her marriage, a criminal gang in London devised a plan to kidnap Anna Murdoch for ransom. They had been watching the Murdochs. They knew who she was. They knew what she was worth. But they made an error. A Murdoch company vehicle had been borrowed by a man named Alec Mackay, Rupert Murdoch's deputy, and when the kidnappers tracked the vehicle, they found Mackay's wife, Muriel, instead. They kidnapped Muriel Mackay. A ransom was demanded. It was never paid. Muriel Mackay was never found. 2 men were eventually convicted. But Anna Murdoch knew. She knew that the intended target had been her. She lived with that knowledge for the rest of her life. That is the kind of world she moved through. Not a comfortable world, not a safe world. The world at the very top of global power and global media, where the stakes were never abstract, and where being the wife of the most powerful media mogul on earth meant that you yourself were a target. She did not retreat. She did not hide. She stayed. She raised 3 children. She helped build an empire. She kept going. And here is where the story of Anna Murdoch becomes something different, something that belongs entirely to her. Because after 1999, she did something that most people in her position never manage. She rebuilt. Not a public comeback, not a media tour, a real life. She had already written 3 novels, In Her Own Image in 1985, Family Business in 1988, and Coming to Terms in 1990, works of fiction that, in retrospect, read almost like a woman working through the complications of her own existence on paper, trying to figure out who she was beyond the empire she had helped build. She threw herself into philanthropy. She became chair of the Board of Regents at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. She served as chair of Hospital Albert Schweitzer in Haiti, showing up personally to advocate for the health of children in one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere. In 1998, Pope John Paul II made her a Dame of the Order of St. Gregory the Great, one of the highest honors the Catholic Church bestows on a layperson for her service to children and to her faith. She married twice more, first to William Mann, a Wall Street financier, in December 1999. He died in 2017 after 18 years of marriage, then to Ashton de Peyster in 2019, and she lived quietly in Palm Beach, Florida, surrounded by family, 3 children, 10 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, until February 17, 2026, when she passed away peacefully at home at the age of 81. The final word. Her son, Lachlan Murdoch, now the chairman of Fox Corporation and News Corp, the empire she helped build, controls a media company worth billions of dollars. Her daughter Elizabeth is a prominent figure in global media and philanthropy. Her son James has been one of the most discussed figures in the conversation about the future of Murdoch's empire.
3 children, each one extraordinary in their own right, each one carrying, whether they know it or not, something of that girl from Glasgow, the one who held her family together before the world gave her any reason to believe it would. Anna Murdoch was many things across 81 years of living: a journalist, a novelist, a mother, a philanthropist, a partner in one of the most consequential media empires in the history of the world. And then, after all of it, a woman who walked away from $1 billion because she decided it was time to create something of beauty again. From a dry cleaning shop in Glasgow to the boardroom of a global empire, she made it to the very top, and she did it, ultimately, entirely on her own terms.